So that's the basic idea behind Lucid Chart. The goal with it is a little bit deeper than that. I mean, I think part of what we're doing is building an application for diagramming Lucid Chart and making it top-notch, and we think easier to use and just a much better tool for like 80-90% of the people who, for example, use Visio today. The other interesting thing is we're, on a more meta level, we're showing that web applications today and web technology today allows you to build software delivered online that's actually better than desktop software. Like if you look at, there's a lot of web applications today, a lot of it, in the sort of, I'd say, sort of CRM and, Salesforce and or, workflow management kind of space, but not a lot of it is actually creating content, and not a lot of it is visual graphical. And that's what we're doing with Lucid Chart, because you're both using it mainly to create content in a visual graphical way. And we're showing that, with HTML5 and all the stuff surrounding that web technology today allows you to actually build applications that are easier to use and better than desktop alternatives like Visio. And what I was saying before is that you've got other online applications like Google Docs, for example, which is pretty good on the collaboration side, but I think part of the reason it hasn't really taken off, or not taken off as much as I'm sure the guys at Google would like, is because it's sort of a subpar experience. Like you can use it, like you can use Google Docs for taking notes collaboratively, and actually I know a lot of people who do that, right? But if you're writing a longer report or a legal document, right? Like if I was a lawyer, or anything that required some formatting, like you really wouldn't use Google Docs, right? Because it's pretty, it's getting better, but it's pretty limited in terms of what you can do. So the collaboration and the online stuff that you get there is sort of a trade-off for a lot of the things that Microsoft Word has, for example. But what we're trying to show is that that doesn't have to be the case, right? Like we actually think that Lucid Chart is full-featured. You can do, a lot of the things, certainly enough for 80-90% of Visio users to do, and we can do it better. And so we want it to be actually a better user experience in every single way. Not just that you get the online through the cloud piece, but you have to sacrifice some other stuff. Cool. So, and then the other question was how it got started.
How did you get involved?
So I was at Google for a long time, for about 7 years. So from practicing as a lawyer, I went in-house to Google, and then did many separate things at Google, including moving out to China to help start the China office. And then when we decided to move back to the U.S., I had dragged my wife out to California and then out to China. So when we moved back, it was sort of her turn to decide where to go, and she took a teaching job here in Utah, so we moved back here.
Very cool. What does she teach?
Law school. We met in law school actually at Harvard. So she teaches at the law school, and so we moved out here, and then I was actually still commuting out to California for Google, on an every other week or every week basis. But that commute got a little bit old, and so I left there at the sort of end of summer 2009, and so even though by that point I'd lived in Utah for several years, I really didn't have an idea what was going on. And so when I left, I sort of decided it was time to sort of figure out what people were doing locally, so trying to get to know people both on the entrepreneur side as well as on the investing angel side. And so I started going to some events, so I ran across Silicon Slopes and some of the things that they were sponsoring. And so I actually met Ben, my partner at Lucid Chart, I think it was a speed pitch event. But I forgot who it was that had put it on. But they were one of the companies that were sort of doing, the 2-minute speed pitch thing. And I was sort of approaching it more as a from the angel investing side, but also trying to meet people. And so from there was really impressed with the technology and the product, and so got to know Ben a little bit and agreed to sort of come on board as an advisor, and actually as the first investor too. But I ended up spending so much time helping him, and I liked him, smart guy, and also just good, solid business head on his shoulders. And so one thing led to another, and I decided to get more involved, and he was looking for some help, and so that's how I sort of jumped in.
So kind of a side question along with that, I'm kind of an aspiring entrepreneur myself and looking to start some things. What was it that you saw in Ben that made you want to work with him? I mean, what are some characteristics that I guess that an entrepreneur ought to have that would attract investors or partners or a good team that you saw?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and I think it, to be honest, goes a lot to all the other things that need to be successful in building a company in terms of fundraising as well. So I think I was really impressed by the product that he had already built and the technology, and from looking at that and from talking with Ben, I could tell that he's just really, really sharp, technically speaking.
Yeah.
And so he was still an undergrad at